Anonymous, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. All right. You know, we touch on different topics in this meeting. We share about anything related in the book. But through the week, right out of our book, Recovered Alcoholics page, it's supposed to be for people who are in recovery or who have recovered from alcoholism. So one guy come up with the idea, y'all just need to take God out the AA book. So I'm looking at the post like, are you serious? This program's been working for 8 years and still working now. The program hadn't changed. God ain't changed. He's still the same. Whether you're atheist or agnostic or a true believer, he's still there. So that brought me to talk about some things. I want to talk about a little God and how power in the big book today. The big book don't need to be changed. It needs to be reread, studied. You know, I studied my Bible. That's very every day. It keeps me going. I mean, this program gave me a design for living, and it really works. So, you know, in the dictionary, the Big Book of Alcoholics got a dictionary, right? And when it talks about the agnostic, let me give you the definition of agnostic from the dictionary. I'll tell you in just a minute, as soon as I find it. Okay, the agnostic is one who believes the existence or non-existence of God can't be proven or known. Or in a hashtag, not a hashtag, but a slash, a person unsure that God or a God exists. Then it talks about agnosticism. We agnostically inclined, thinking like an agnostic. Agnosticism is the belief that the first cause of the universe, God or absolute truth, cannot be known, and that only observable things can be accepted as real. Only observable things can be accepted as real. This is the agnostic belief. Bill Wilson was an agnostic as well. There are far more things out there that's beyond our visible eyes. There's something invisible. Take electricity, for instance. We can't see it. I mean, we can't comprehend it. I mean, we can see it, but there's something beyond that ability, like electric current. We can't see electric current, right? My computer hooked up to an electric plug in the wall. I can't see what's running through it. I just know it's there. It's invisible. So there's something else associated with power. And we'll focus on that a little bit today because there's so many different misbeliefs and conceptions that has come into this program since it was incepted back in 1935. Now, for somebody to say they want to take God in, we need to take God out the book. We need to stop talking about God. I pray for him right on the spot, right on the page. I have to pray for this person. Come on now, this program been working. It worked for me, 42 years of drinking. And I tried everything in the world. And this program worked for me. It can work for anybody in the universe. I don't care if you're on another planet, it can work for if it worked for me. Never seen such an anti-religion, atheist agnosticism I practiced in my life. I knew God existed. I just didn't like him. I ain't want nothing to do with it. When I got to be 16, I said, shoot, I don't need no God in my life. I got my alcohol. So I blew God out the picture for many years, right? But you know, life was real crazy. Unbalanced. I like to call it balanced, but I was plain insane. That's just basically the bottom line. So when it talks about the atheist is one who does not believe in the existence of God, period. An interesting story I always like to share with any newcomer or somebody that I try to reach out to that don't believe in God. Our Southern friend is a prime example in the big book. Focus on pages 214 and the big book talks about the power of God goes deep. First instance, when we talk about this God in the big book, it takes me forward to the second edition. And if y'all go with me, I like to share this with you. Page XVI, as a matter of fact, it's in the top of the first paragraph. Hey, Brother Dan, I want you to read this for me. When he says, though he could not accept, it's about middle ways of the paragraph on XVI. Talking about, yeah, though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford group.
Yeah.
And you can start where it says God right there.
Finish off to God. Yeah, cool. It's XVI, everybody. Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford groups, he was convinced of the need for moral inventory, confession of personality defects, restitution to those harmed, helpfulness to others, and the necessity of belief in and dependence upon God.
Yeah, no doubt. Appreciate it, Brother Dan.
No worries.
We talking about our co-founder, Bill Wilson here. You know, his friend, Ebby T, came from the Oxford group and brought Bill some basic ideas from there. Now this is a religious organization, right? But this is a spiritual program. Ebby picked up some spiritual principles. Some of those principles are, well, moral inventory is one. So that's something. It's going to eventually be these 10 is going to become steps, basically. But Bill didn't want to deal with this Oxford group conception. But then it talks about the necessity of belief in and dependence upon God. Belief, that's a key word. We got to believe in something before we can have a solution. We believe and we figured out, we found out what the problem was, right? But then you may ask, what is the solution? You know, it's actually the solution is 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous for us. And step 12 is the goal, to have that spiritual awakening. It produces a personality change sufficient enough for us to recover from alcoholism. Key word, personality change. This is a game change. It changes the whole game. We no longer live like we do. So Bill was convinced, you know, for the need of this moral inventory, confession of personality defects, because we are all clobbered with personality defects. Even when we recover from alcoholism, personal defects is a human condition. So we're going to have defects the rest of our lives. But you know what? As we go through the steps, we ask God to remove these defects from us. He's going to remove things that's blocking us from gaining a relationship with him. And we're going to have plenty more. Believe me, we're going to have these things to the day we die. But you know what? It's how we deal with them today. I used to deal with them with the whiskey bottle in oblivion. Thank God I don't have to do that today. Then he talks about restitution to those harmed. Yeah, we make amends, right? That's down in step 9. Yeah, we make good to the people we hurt. And then we try not to keep continuing the same behavior. The damage that we did to them, simply a change of behavior. Helpfulness to others. You know, we can help other people today without having a motive. And that's a good thing. That is able to show love to other people. In my drinking career, I thought I'd love, but I ain't really love. I love myself. I love my body. And I was clobbered with selfishness and self-centeredness. But I'm going to go back to this last point. And the necessity. So it's something that is vital. There's a necessity that we come to believe in something greater than us. Because, you know, the big book tells us on page 45, the lack of power, that was our dilemma. So we don't have the power. When we cross the line from a normal drinker to a heavy drinker to a real alcoholic, we don't have power. That's a human condition. So we're going to need to get in contact with someone or somebody that's greater than us, no doubt. And this is where the word God was incorporated early on. You know, even before Bill Wilson started this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, him and Dr. Bob. You know, the Oxford group, they read the Bible to people suffering from alcoholism. And they had to deal with that, at least till this book was published. So they didn't have much of a choice. So that's why Bill, he refused to accept, because he was a church goer. They used to make Bill go to church back in his young days. Same with me. I used to be forced to go to church. Bill ain't like that too much. He eventually left. Same like I did. So then, go to the second edition, page XVI. It talks about another religious guy, right? It says in the fall of 1939, Fulton Oursler, the then editor of Liberty, printed a piece in his magazine called Alcoholics and God. Wow, that's pretty neat right there. This was produced in a magazine. Wow. Then I'm gonna fast forward to be a story in just a minute. There was something else I had in my mind. But anyway, so you're talking about God already. So a lot of people have a problem with words. I don't have a problem with that word today because that's somebody that was greater than me that simply solved my problem. So when we think about God so far, we can breeze on to page 12 and be a story, as a matter of fact. Yeah, be a story, page 12. So be up some things, of course. So at the top, now I'm gonna go to page 12. That's I'm gonna do 12 and 13, Brother Dan. So here we go at the top of page 12. You'll share that paragraph with them to where it says, why don't you choose your own conception from this story?
From Despite the Living,
yeah? Yeah. Gotcha.
Cool. Top of page 12, everybody. Despite the living example of my friend, there remained in me the vestiges of my old prejudice. The word God still aroused a certain empathy. When the thought was expressed that there might be a God personal to me, this feeling was intensified. I didn't like the idea. I could go for such conceptions as creative intelligence, universal mind, or spirit of nature, but I resisted the thought of a czar of the heavens, however loving his sway might be. I have since talked with scores of men who felt the same way. My friend suggested what then seemed a novel idea. He said, why don't you choose your own conception of God?
Okay, thank you, Brother Dan.
Cool.
That's some important words when I up this the messages because it's in Italian. She said, well, why don't you choose your own conception of God? That gave Bill an idea. See, this would be like our step 2 right here. You know, when it says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 2 is the idea. So this idea is being implanted in Bill's brain right now. Because if we back up to that first paragraph that Brother Dan read, it says, when the thought was expressed that there might be a God personal to me, this feeling was intensified. I didn't like the idea. No, Bill didn't like the idea that it might be a God to be personal with. I can relate to him. But he could go for other conceptions such as creative intelligence, universal mind, spirit of nature, but he resisted the thought of a God in the heavens, however loving his sway may be. I have since talked with scores of men who felt the same way. So what's being presented here on this page is a conception. It's being presented right in front of him. And he can start seeing it right about now. And then his friend Ebby said, well, my friend suggested what seemed a novel idea. Now, idea comes from the mind, right? But you choose your own conception. Okay, so now that opens up, that takes the veil off the face and opens a wide variety. You know, me as a true believer, I have ways. So that's my belief. I don't dispute with nobody who they believe in, what they believe in, or how they believe in it. But we are free to share in Alcoholics Anonymous our conception of the God that simply solved our problem. So in my experience, if you're an atheist or you're an agnostic, I love you the same. I have no problem. As long as this what your power keeps us sober, keeping you sober, wow, great news. That's the goal, right? We stay sober. I don't force my relationship with the Lord. I don't force my relationship that I have on nobody else. No. Especially not in there, but you know, it's fine. You hear me call God's name every now and then because the Spirit moves me to do that. So, but then back to Bill Wilson. He says that statement hit me hard. It melted the intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had lived and shivered many years. I stood in the sunlight at last. Okay, so Bill, right now, Bill know what the problem is. He did step one, right? He seen he can't stop his own self from drinking. He see he suffered from something wrong with his mind. See, the problem of the alcoholic centers in the mind. Dr. Silkworth, by this part of the book, then explained to Bill the grave nature of alcoholism. Even back in the doctor's opinion, it talks about a power greater than yourself, which is that's what it takes. I go back to that page in just a minute. But anyway, when Bill talking about he's standing in the sunlight. So then, okay, the problem one, step one problem, Bill realized he suffered from an allergy to alcohol. He found out he could not take as much as one drink. So it took him several times in and out Towns Hospital. It took me a whole lot of times in these different hospitals and psych wards in my drinking career. I shared about that when I shared pieces of my story, I think, last week. So, but then something hit Bill. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. Wow. Willingness. Y'all know in the big book, it talks about willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. We became willing. Willingness is very important. Of course, it takes humility first. It took a lot of humility for me to even accept. Well, maybe this program can work for an alcoholic like me, because I tried NA. Y'all know I tried AA for many years. I tried everything in the world. I tried to fix myself. I tried to fix other people. It always ended up with another drink. So something was wrong. I can't do this stuff by myself. I had to beat my butt down though, 42 years. I had to come back begging to God. I've been in the wrong. Please help me. Please help me. And he did. So, but then back to the doctor's opinion. Yeah, I want to go back to page XXIX. No doubt. So, next to the last paragraph. Yeah. I'm going to share this part. It starts out, it says, men have cried out to me. Are y'all with me on that part? Okay, men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal. Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me. So faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with himself, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. Here comes the hopelessness, right? One feels that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. Something more than human power is needed. So yes, this is a key point. We're gonna have to find a power greater than ourselves. Human power ain't good. I used to hear people in the rooms for years like, oh, believe in that doorknob, that chair. Take the group as your higher power. Well, none of these things was sufficient for me. I don't know about y'all. Well, my power had to come something greater. No, that doorknob theory, I could not accept that. I rejected it. And I talked about it like a dog. So, man, you got to be crazy. That chair can't talk to you. That chair can't hear you. It ain't going to do nothing for you. It's just some of the experience I went through in the watered down fellowship for over 3 decades. Wow. So, that takes care of that problem. But then, key point, back to page 12. For Bill Wilson, something down right below the italics on page 12. I saw that growth could start from that point upon a foundation of complete willingness. I might be what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. No doubt. Now, here comes the God word again in this book. Thus I will convince that God is concerned with us humans when we want him enough. As long as I saw, I felt, I believed. Scales of pride and prejudice fell from my eyes. A new world came into view. Oh, wow, no doubt. That is some good stuff right there, y'all. Still talking about God here. Now, like I said, once again, I'm a God believer. I'm a God believer 100%. It's in my soul, it's in my bone. But AA opens it up for whatever anybody wants to believe. Who is this Zoom bomber? What's it? Get him? You see him, Brother Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm praying for you, Zoom, but whatever your name is, I pray for you. God bless you. He called me a black gorilla, told me to shut the F up. Well, okay, no problem. I pray, bro.
I didn't see that. You must have done it direct.
Yeah,
I
I'm sitting here
apologize. Sorry.
reading this. I can read it right here. It says, shut the F up, you black gorilla. So I pray for people like that. He need a power greater than him. That's just the bottom line, because he's screwed up in the mind. See, the problem centers in the mind, and that's a prime example. Human condition. We need a power greater than ourselves to solve this stupidity and ignorance in our lives. Thank God his power came upon me. So there it is, bottom of page 12. The real significance of my experience in the cathedral burst upon me. Now, Bill talks about this cathedral back when he was a war veteran. Y'all remember that cathedral where it had the tombstone back on page 1? It talks about this cathedral again. So something bursted up on Bill, and then he goes on to say, for a brief moment, I had needed and wanted God. Wow, he needed and wanted God. There had been a humble willingness to have him with me, and he came. Notice the word here, he is capitalized. Means God came. But soon as the sense of his presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, mostly those within myself. That sound pretty familiar? See, our troubles we think are basically of our own making. So it was from self-centered. And so it had been ever since. Top page 13. How blind I had been. Yes. Okay. All right. Dan, page 13, Brother Dan. From at the hospital down to the bottom, but great measure. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Top of page, first full paragraph on page 13, everybody, Bill's story. At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, for I showed signs of delirium tremens. There I humbly offered myself to God as I then understood him, to do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, that without him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. I have not had a drink since. My schoolmate visited me, and I fully acquainted him with my problems and deficiencies. He made a list of people I had hurt or toward whom I felt resentment. I expressed my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrong. Never was I to be critical of them. I was to right all such matters to the utmost of my ability. I was to test my thinking of the new God consciousness within. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as he would have me. Never was I to pray for myself, except as my requests bore on my usefulness to others. Then only might I expect to receive, but that would be in great measures.
Okay, thank you, Brother Dan. No doubt about it. At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, for I showed signs of delirium tremens. Bill getting ready to take some action now. This will be his last treatment at Towns Hospital. Now, the book records 3 incidents, right? But I'm pretty sure from my research, at least 4 times. That's what I found in my research. But it don't matter how many times. You know what I mean? I went over 10 times, 15 times. I can't remember the amount of times I've been to a treatment center, detox centers, all that good stuff. This would be Bill's sobriety day. This is December 11th, 1934. That's the date of Bill's sobriety, no doubt. But then we realized later on, it was 6 months later before he had this meeting with Dr. Bob. In the first meeting, Dr. Bill Wilson met Dr. Bob June 10th, 1935, which is 6 months later, true enough. That was the birth of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, at the hospital, there I humbly offer myself to God as I then understood him. That's the God word again, right? He said he humbly offered himself to God. See, if we too prideful and too stuck up to keep on to run the show ourselves, that's humility. We anti-humility at this point. So God had to humble me down before I could even accept the fact, well, I got to get out of myself. Myself the one stopping me. Myself the one kept me screwed up for over 40-something years. So then he goes on to mention, back to page 13, there I humbly offer myself to God as I then understood him to do with me as he would. Remember in the step 3 prayer, we ask God to relieve us of the bondage of self that I might be able to do thy will. Take away difficulties. The victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy love, thy power, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. See, we're getting out of ourselves in step 3, right? So then, he was placed himself unreservedly under his care and direction. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, that without him I was lost. There's that word him, capitalized. That's referring to God. That's referring to God. Him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away root and branch. I have not had a drink since. My newfound friend is capitalized. This is undoubtedly another reference to God in the big. So I got to laugh again about that clown that sent me that message the other day. I posted on my Facebook page, actually. I need to take this God stuff out of AA. Man, come on, where is your brain at? Apparently you never picked up the book, right? No way you could have possibly ever picked up a book. But then, here's Bill going through the steps now, right? My schoolmate visited me and I fully acquainted him with my problems and deficiencies. That sounds like, step 4, he got a step 4 there. So he related it to his friend. That'd be step 5. He already had a list, so he made a list of people he had hurt or toward whom he felt resentment. That's all part of step 4 inventory. 8, we become willing to put these things down on paper. So we make a separate list. That's a whole different meeting, though. So I won't do that part today. So I expressed my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrong. This is the amends process. Never was I to be critical of them. Remember, the inventory was not the other persons, and I was to write all such matters to the utmost of my ability. Thank God. Going through the step. Now, still on page 13, next to the last paragraph where it reads, I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. Step 11, peeps. This is a step I was taught to live in every day. This is rooted here on from page 84 to 88. See, step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. Yes. So then common sense would thus become uncommon sense. I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems that he would have me. Never was I to pray for myself. We pray for others today. First, we can pray for ourselves afterwards, but we want to pray how we can be helpful to other people. That's the topic of prayer. Bill was always consistent with the thought of helping other people, and we eventually get to that point. It didn't take me long to get to that point. I realized I'm having a joy trying to help people, trying to carry the message. Where I suffered for so long in and out of these rooms because people didn't bring me the message out the book. And when I caught the message from the book, and God in my life has set a fire under me, and it's a duty. It's a privilege. It's a beautiful thing. So is my request born my usefulness to others. Key point. Then only might I expect to receive. But that would be in great measure. Yes, we gain great measures. Reaching out, talking to another alcoholic, period. And I'm gonna do this last paragraph right here. This is something beautiful. It says, my friend promised at the bottom of page 13, I stop on the top of 14. It says, my friend promised when these things were done. Yes, when these steps were taken, I would enter upon a new relationship with my creator. Here it is, another, the C is capitalized in creator. This is talking about God again, that I would have the elements of a way of living, which answered all my problems. Yes, you know, on page 55, right? It talks about, we'll get to that in just a minute. We'll get in just a minute. I'll get there in just a minute, which answered all my problems. I'm on fire right now. So belief in the power of God. The power of God goes deep, people. It goes deep. Plus enough willingness. There's that word again. Willingness, honesty, and humility. Top of page 14. To establish and maintain the new order of things were the essential requirements. Wow. Man, I like to post. I think I got this on my wall behind me right here. Simple but not easy. Page 14. A price had to be paid. It meant destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. Yeah. That was the hardest thing in the world for me to do, to give up self. So, but I was just good. Self popped today. I'm still a human being, right? I'm not perfect. I make mistakes every day of the week. Every single day, I'm gonna self gonna say, "Oh, Kim, let's do it this way, man." But I have to stop and think. Shoot, Kim, your way didn't work for 42 years. You better stay in lane and let God do what He's been doing for you for the past 3.5 years. You better stay there. But you try to, you sit down. So I had to stop and pray constantly. It gets me going. But then back to the big page 28. There's a solution. Yes, indeed. I love it. I'm so grateful that this man, you know, Bill Wilson was not the first alcoholic, but check this out. He was definitely the first alcoholic who put his experience, his problem, the solution, and the course of action in a book. Just imagine how many alcoholics died without even knowing anything about this. A lot of them just died not knowing that they were alcoholics. But that's where I was going. I was headed straight to my darn grave. And I knew about alcoholism. But see that malady with the problem centers in the mind. When I was at Action, when I was running my show, it was my show. My. See, selfishness, that's a trait of all human beings. Y'all know. I was listening to a sermon this morning, right? When I do my other study. And the whole topic was focused on self. That makes self. You got to get rid of this selfishness, people, or it kills us. Ain't no doubt about it. So here on page 28 of the big book, what seemed at first a flimsy read. Here we go. We in turn, Brother Dan, you hit that paragraph for me. We in turn.
Yeah,
just
cool.
a little short paragraph. Yeah.
Down to such matters.
Yeah,
right.
That'll work.
Yeah. Page 28, everybody. Second paragraph. We, in turn, sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given us, or, if you prefer, a design for living that really works. Carry on, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
The distinguished American psychologist William James, in his book Varieties of Religious Experience, indicates a multitude of ways in which men have discovered God. We have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. If what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a loving creator, with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms, as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. Those who have religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing to their beliefs or ceremonies. There is no friction among us over such matters.
Okay, yeah. Thanks again, Brother Dan. Now, it says, we in turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first to be a flimsy reed, y'all know what a flimsy reed is, huh? Has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. There's that God word again. Again. Well, look, check this out. My old ways of living, my old way of thinking, it was not a design for living, but the big book gives us a design for living, and it works. It talks about this design for living also back on page 15, and it talks about it again on page 81. Alcoholics Anonymous has given us all a design for living. Yes. Dependence on power greater than ourselves. That's a design right there alone. When my mind can concentrate on what can I do to please God and to help other people, my days are fine with that. They're just great with that. And then the big book talks about this God consciousness several times as well. But then it goes on in the reading. It talks about we have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. Faith is a huge asset when we come to believe in something greater than ourselves. When we can start to get this idea in our head, then we can develop faith in something, and then we can move on and do the same thing Bill Wilson and all these other first 100 men and women did. So then I'm gonna come on down to this last paragraph, not the last one, but next to the last. Because this is an important part when I was being 12-step through this book. It says if what we have learned and felt and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living creator. Notice that creator word got the big C on it again. Reference to God, with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. See, we want to form this relationship. That's what the book tells us right here. Upon forming a relationship, that's what it's all about. Without a relationship, we have nothing. So this book's giving us a recipe, a design for living that work. But then it points out, those having religious affiliations, people hate this word, it's even in the big book. My relationship with my creator is not a religion. It is a simple relationship. I got a relationship with my wife. Or I got a relationship with my family. I got a relationship with God. This is not religion. People, they get the message twisted, very twisted. So it says those having these religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing to their beliefs or ceremonies. There is no friction among such matters. But y'all know what disturbs me so very much, and these people in this group, my recovered alcoholics group, man, they constantly bash people if they use the name of the God that they believe in or something, man. It is so crazy. That's why it's important to keep pounding these points and have to reiterate these things to them. They don't see the bigger picture, right? So then, here we go. On page 29, it talks about each individual in the personal stories describes in his own language and from his own point of view the way he established his relationship with God. Whatever your relationship with God, higher power, whatever you want to call it, that is your business, and you feel free to share about it. And when somebody try to bash you about your belief, well, it has nothing to do with a religion. This is a relationship. This whole program is based on relationship. Thank God for that. It tells you right here, again, about relationship. Page 55. It talks about, page 45, my bad. It talks about, it means we have written a book, that's spiritual as well as moral, right? And of course, it means, that we are going to talk about God. We agnostics on page 46. we found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and even express a willingness to believe, and a power is capitalized, greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God. Yes, we can't comprehend it. We can't see it. We can't feel it. We can't touch it, but it's a power. There's a power somewhere. The important part is gaining a relationship with this power, which will solve our problem. Page 46 again. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another conception of God. If somebody expresses somebody expresses something about their God, cool, I applaud you, God bless. You know, whether you believe in God or not, right? But I know I do. But then people jump over me in my group, that Facebook group, they want to jump over. There you go with this religion. Man, this is a religion. You can pound it on the head with a hammer. You can pound it on with a hammer, and they still cannot understand. I'm not talking about religion, clown. Read the book, please. So we agnostics on page 47. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God, right? Says your own conception. It emphasizes this over and over again in the book. So then on page 52, it brings out when we saw others saw their problems by simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Okay. Here on page 55, a deep point. Actually, we were fooling ourselves. But deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. We were born that way. Yes, we were born. We weren't here. We didn't get here by no accident, some random nothing come from nothing crap. Something up there created us. Because look, we can talk, we can breathe, we live every day. So how in the world? I don't dispute no atheists. I just simply point them to the book, right? I point them to the book. Maybe I have enough time to get to that part. Maybe. My man here, now my man that was an atheist, right? Let me tell you this test right here. On page 56. Let me see. Let me open my book. Let me scroll through my book. Anyway, my man once said, who are you to say there is no God? But his story is in the back of the book, right? There it is, right here on page 56. It said, and if we all go to page 56 with me, I'll read this. Brother Dan, I'll let you read this part right here. So on page 56, when it says, one night when confined in a hospital.
Fitz Mayo, isn't this one? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, this gonna be my man Fitz. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a minister's son. Read his little account right there.
Cool. Middle of page 56, everybody. One night when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known his spiritual experience. Our friends Gorge rose as he bitterly cried out, if there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me. But later, alone in his room, he asked himself this question. Is it possible that all the religious people I have known are wrong? While pondering on the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then, like a thunderbolt, a great thought came. It crowded out all else. Who are you to say there is no God?
Yes, no doubt. Good deal, brother Dan. Appreciate it. Yeah. See, now my man Fitz Mayo, right? He thought he was overdosed by religious education. See, his daddy was a minister, right? One of them religious people, right? But then that night he was confined in the hospital, man. He was approached by an alcoholic, Bill Wilson, of course, who had a non-spiritual experience. So he got to thinking when he was in his room by himself. So he asked himself this question: is it possible that all these people I've known are wrong? I mean, it seemed like they were the religious people living pretty good lives, right? But Fitz couldn't get his life together. So he had to reevaluate and look at, well, maybe these people know something about what they talk about. Shoot, even though I left the church years ago, I didn't want to hear them religious people thinking they was all holy and mighty and all that. I didn't want to hear that. So we left. But then, by pondering that very answer, he felt as though he had lived in hell. He finna have some realization right now. Then, like a thunderbolt, this great thought popped into his brain, and it crowded out all else. Well, clown, who are you to say there is no God? Wow, yeah. Then he recounts how he tumbled out of bed to his knees. A few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. He had a spiritual experience right here. It poured over and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood. All the barriers he had for years had been swept away. All the scales of prejudice had swept away against the thought or idea of a God. And it was able to fix his alcoholic problem. Wow. Page 59. But there is one who has all power. This is in how it works. That one is God. May you find him now. Page 62. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Yeah, see, alcohol made us play God. I know it made me play God. As long as I'm playing God, my alcohol problem could never get solved. When I could stop playing God, I could see something need to be changed. It was my darn mind needed, my thinking had to be changed. I had to get out of selfishness and self-centeredness. So page 68 of the big book, it says, for now we are on a different basis, a basis of trusting and relying upon God, no doubt. And how it works on page 68, it says, they trust their God. So whatever their conception of God is, they trust in it. I trust in mine. In everything I do, every step I take, every thought I have, I have to take it to him. Because if I don't, I know what can happen if I don't. Page 68. And how it works, it says we never apologize for God. And I would never apologize for expressing my belief in God. I don't care where I go, who I'm with, or whatever. It's about God. God is everything. Is everything or we are nothing, bottom line. So then, in the action on page 77, we don't use this as an excuse from shying away from the subject of God. So we feel free to talk about God and Alcoholics Anonymous, no matter who don't like it, right? This is in the program. This is in the first portion of the big book. And working with others. If the man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your conception of God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here it is in the big book in black and white. So this says, clown told me, he said, well, y'all need to take it out the big book. You quit talking about God on here. Well, look at the book, fool. It's got it all through there from front to back. Word God, creative power, creative intelligence, this and that. How can you not see it? I mean, Stevie Wonder can see these things. Y'all know who Stevie Wonder is now. He can read the pages on this book, his Braille book, and feel the word God all through it, right? Page 98. Boom. The minute we put our work on the service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. See, somebody we work with, we got to make it plain to them that you can't rely on me because I'm human power. Your reliance is simply on God. I mean, no human power could solve our alcoholism, right? I mean, I tried all these different rooms. I tried all these different hospitals, all these different treatment centers. Oh, that was human power. It took something way greater than me to solve my problem. 42 years of this stuff. And I couldn't solve it, and people couldn't solve it. And working with others on page 98. Some of us are taking very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife. We simply do not stop drinking as long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence upon God. Wow. And working with others on page 100. I may do a whole meeting on page 99 and 100 one of these days, but this is a great topic. On page 100, it says, is dependent upon his relationship with God. Notice the word relationship, right? It didn't say his religion with God. See, God ain't a religion, no way. He's simply A power greater. He's the greatest power in the universe. That has nothing to do with religion. Page 116. Time after time, this parent of calamity has been a boon to us, for it opened up a path which led to the discovery of God. Time and time again, I failed. Every time I tried, I failed. 4 decades of failing. But then as the calamities got worse, as the drinking got worse over the years, they finally beat my butt down to finally discover who God was. Even when I was preaching, I was still drinking because I didn't have a relationship. I was in a religion then, but I didn't have a relationship. You can be the most religious person on the planet, but if you don't have a relationship with that power, it's no good. For me, I kept drinking. Today, I don't have to worry about drinking. I got a relationship, and I do thank God for that. Now, and to the wise, here on page 116, it says, but it was a silly idea that we were too good to need God. See, the wise that we put in torture, that's what Lois Wilson come up with Eleanor, right? The wise can get this attitude. Well, shoot, we don't need no God. You the one that got the problem, but we done tortured our wives in our drinking careers. But this is the feedback we can get from them. Page 154, in a vision for you, 154 and 155, it talks about his sanity return, and he thanked God. See, these 12 steps will restore our sanity at the end of the 9-step promises on page, I think it's the bottom of page 84. I can't get it. For by now, sanity will have returned. Page 164, the big book. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. And I'm going to stop right there for today, because I could talk about God for the next 3 hours, but I'm going to do an hour, though. I thank everybody for coming. Happy Sunday. Hey, Brother Rob, Brother Tim, and Amy. I didn't get a chance to speak to y'all. Christina, good to see y'all. God bless. Thank you, Brother Dan. I hope somebody got something about it out of this today, because Big Book used the word God many, many times, right? But it's your own conception. I mean, what you believe in is fine. It's beautiful with me. If that power or your God or your no God or whatever. See, like I said, we can believe in electricity. I can't see the electricity running through my wall over there, but I'm looking at everybody on this computer. I can talk through it. Something invisible that's transmitting energy. So that's power, right? Power greater than ourselves can restore us all to sanity. Okay, Brother Dan, thanks for co-hosting as well. Always being here for me. And,
It was a pleasure.
All right, turn
As long
it
as you
back
don't, as long as you don't stick your finger in the plug to find out where that energy is going, leave it alone. I'm just going to turn this